Hello again, fellow metters, and welcome to the Fabled Masamune build guide. In today's video, I'll be showcasing my unique take on the samurai style of fighting. With this build, we are able to hit over 200k crit hits on the test dummy and consistently land over 100k plus hits on both adds and bosses. In this comprehensive guide, I'll reveal the optimal armor sets, essential mods, powerful food and drink buffs, and the key deviants that bring this build to life. Plus, I'll highlight the specific mods that truly allow us to channel our inner samurai. Let's dive in. So let's take a look at the main weapon of this build, the Fabled Masamune. When weapon durability is above 50%, for every 1% higher, crit damage plus 3% up to 120%. When weapon durability is below 20%, for every 1% lower, attack minus 2%. So ideally you want to keep the weapon as healthy as possible. When dealing a quick attack after drawing weapon, attack plus 30% and guaranteed crit hit. Ineffective against metahumans. Can be triggered once every 15 seconds. If the quick attack hits, the enhanced effect will stay for 5 seconds but will decay over time. However, this doesn't seem to be the case. As you can clearly see on the video, I activated it from a heavy attack and consistently hit my crits. For the calibration, I am running a hard striker style. Heavy attack damage plus 30%, melee stamina cost minus 25%. This is only a purple, a legendary would give me 40%, with a double crit damage suffix. Ideally, I'd like to keep 1 crit damage and then gain a crit rate as well. For my secondary, I've chose to go with the recurve crossbow. Hitting a weak spot will inflict the bullseye on the target, causing all weapons to have a crit rate plus 15%. Versus targets with the bullseye for 10 seconds. Effect only works once on the same target within 15 seconds. Ideally, this is used for boss fighting or enemies that are single target with a weak spot. For my calibration, I'm running a portable style. For mobility, movement speed while firing plus 50, weapon switching speed plus 50%, movement speed while holding the gun plus 12.5%, with a double weak spot suffix. For my accessories, I'm running the reflex sight for the optic and tungsten AP ammunition. It gives me a stability rating of 62, accuracy of 76, range of 80, and a reload speed of 56. My other choice for secondary is my D50 Wildfire. It has a 60% chance to trigger the bullseye when hitting a target. There is an 80% chance to spread the bullseye to one enemy within a 15-meter area. If there are no enemies within the area, weapon damage plus 25% for 10 seconds. When hitting a weak spot of marked enemies, attack plus 3% for 10 seconds, up to 3 stacks. Now ideally I use this when I'm in silo situations and I have a lot of adds around me, as I find it's hard to hit the weak spot with the crossbow, but very easy to apply the bullseye with the wildfire. For the calibration, I like to run a rapid shot style for fire rate plus 25%, magazine capacity plus 40%, and attack minus 15%, with a double weak spot suffix. For my accessories, I am running multi-brake for my muzzle, compact reflex sight for my optic, small infrared indicator for my tactics, amended pistol mag for my magazine, and tungsten AP ammunition. This gives me a grand total stability of 79, accuracy of 83, range of 48, and a reload speed of 66. Now for our secondary, which helps support this build, I'm using the Sandstorm. Switching to this weapon triggers Fortress Warfare, has a cooldown of 20 seconds. While in Fortress Warfare, weapon damage plus 10%. So this helps us gain an extra little bit of attack when we run through our rotation. For the calibration, I've chose to use a lightweight style for reload speed plus 40% and magazine capacity minus 25%, with a crit damage of plus 12.4 and a crit rate of 8.5. And for my accessories, I've chose quick flame break for the muzzle, holographic sight for my optics, tactical laser sight for my tactics, and I'm running tungsten AP ammunition. This gives me a grand total stability of 69, accuracy of 94, range of 59, and a reload speed of 45. So now let's take a look at some damage testing. In my raw damage output, I hit 49,000 for 3 consecutive hits, followed by a 45,000 hit, and the final one registered at 42,000 for the remaining of the critical hits. So after applying bullseye from the recurve crossbow, I hit 71k for 3 consecutive hits, then 69k for the 4th, 65k for the 5th, 62k on the 6th, 56k on the 7th, 42k on the 8th, and finally another 42k on the 9th crit hit. So next is Fortress Warfare. After applying Fortress Warfare, I hit for 54k 3 times, then 48k on the 4th crit, 42k on the 5th, and another 42k on the 6th crit hit. Now let's take a look at the new Starfall Enchanting Void. After allowing the Deviant to attack the target, I hit 98k for 2 hits, then 99k for 1 hit. The 4th hit comes in at 90k, followed by 85k for both the 5th and the 6th crit hits. So now let's take a look at putting all these things together in 2 rotations. During my first rotation, I hit for 189k on the first hit, 188k on the second, 187k on the third, and 166k on the 4th. And then I see a 9k drop for the next 2 crit hits. After allowing my rotation to cool down, I reapply the buffs, and this time I hit 211k on my first hit, 201k on the second, 191k on the third. The damage then drops off to 166k on the 4th hit, and then 135k on both the 5th and the 6th. So let's take a look at the Cradle. I'm using anti-coherence, anti-phase, tactical combo, Deviant energy defense, tactical leap, steady hand, robust, and brawl boost. Your server's Cradle may differ. Here you can see my stats when fully buffed. I'd like to take a short moment to say a massive thank you to all my subscribers and viewers. We are steadily getting closer to the 500 sub goal, and I really do appreciate all your support. If you haven't already subscribed and you're enjoying the content, maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any more of my build guides, including some more additions to the Blue Grade series. On that note, let's get back to the build. So now let's take a look at the buffs that can be used. I chose to use the mixed fried hot dog, used to increase damage by 20% towards enemies affected by the bullseye. For this you will need any piece of meat, 2 deviated mushrooms, and 2 corn oil. Your second food option can be Stargazy Pie, used to increase your crit damage by 25% when your energy is full. For this you will need 1 deviated pumpkin, 1 deviated saffron, and 3 deviated wheat. Next on the list is the drink buffs. So I personally like to use the Stardust Mushroom Soup, as I gain max stamina of 20%, and due to being heavy, my stamina gets used quite quickly, and stamina recovery speed of plus 30%. For this you will need 1 deviated mushroom, 2 sugar, and 2 purified water. Next we have the Stardust Energy Drink, used to gain the double jump ability for 30 minutes. For this you will need 2 saffron, 5 purified water, 5 sugar, and 3 aluminum ingots. So now let's take a look at the deviants that can be used. I'm using the Starfall Inversion Enchanting Void. Deviation appearance changed. Sinking abilities grant plus 5% melee damage. The effect is increased by 50% while airborne. If you throw this deviant, after throwing, the player transforms into a panther. In panther form, automatically attack hostile targets, increasing melee damage taken by the attacked targets by 200. Lasts for 20 seconds. If you use the combat assist version of the deviant, continue to focus on the player while in the Black Cat form. When focusing on the player's movement speed plus 10% when holding a melee weapon, and recover 10% max HP when hitting a target with a melee attack. So if you want more damage, use the throwing mechanic. However, if you want more speed and heals, then use the assisted version of this deviant. For the second deviant, you can use Xeno Purifier. Designate a target to attack with Xeno Purifier. Targets in the direction you are facing will be prioritized. If there are no targets in the direction you are facing, surrounding enemies will be targeted. Auto attack. Automatically move and attack. When attacking, teleport to the target to attack. This also gives the player the same teleportation ability as melee attacks. Also try to get the durability put. Sync with it grants stamina consumption minus 5%. Next, let's take a look at the armor sets. So for my 3-piece, I'm using a blue set, and it's the blast set. Heavy melee damage plus 20%, torso damage reduction plus 12%. After killing an enemy with a melee attack, damage plus 25% for next melee attack within 5 seconds. Melee swing speed plus 15%. For my 2-piece set, I'm running the Falcon. Rolling stamina cost minus 20% and crit damage plus 12%. And for my key armor piece, I'm running Earthly Boots. When hitting marked enemies, damage plus 30%. Now, if you don't want to use key armor, you can also run another piece of Falcon, so you'd have a 3-piece set of Falcon to run with the 3-piece blast. Now, before we move on to mods, I just want to take a quick moment to explain the certain skins that you can use for your mask. So the Starfall Crocodile skin gives you melee damage plus 7% and the effects double while airborne. If you use the Beach Crocodile skin, you get melee crit rate of plus 7%. Coastal Bay Crocodile skin gives you a crit damage plus 10% while you're invisible. Crocodile Hide just gives you a flat melee damage of plus 10. And Hide gives you a melee damage of plus 8%. For this build, I went with the Starfall Crocodile skin, as at the time I didn't have any of the other 2 available. Next, make sure that you make your chest with Wasteland Wolf skin, as this gives you a max stamina of 20% and a sprint speed of 5%. And the same for your legs, make them with Wasteland Wolf skin for another 20% max stamina and sprint speed of another 5%. So now let's take a look at the mods that really bring this build together. So for my weapon mod, instead of using a blue mod that gives me more crit rate, I've decided to go with the Burning Wrath with a violent mod. Now it doesn't matter what mod you use as long as it's violent, and you want to aim to get your crit damage and some weapon damage and possibly 2 damage against different enemy types. For my recurve bow, I'm running Vulnerability Amplifier with the precision suffix. The bullseye adds vulnerability plus 8%, with the aptitude effects of weapon damage plus 9%, head damage reduction plus 6.4%, damage against elite enemies of 4.5%, and max HP of 3.6%. For my Sandstorm, I'm running Final Territory with the Fortress Warfare suffix. When Fortress Warfare ends, weapon damage plus 10%, movement speed plus 10% for 10 seconds. Aptitude effects. While in Fortress Warfare state, weapon damage plus 6.4%, damage against normal enemies plus 4%, weapon damage reduction plus 1.2%, and while in Fortress Warfare state, weak spot damage plus 2.4%. For my helmet mod, I am running Faithful Strike with the violent suffix. Cannot deal weak spot damage, crit rate plus 10% and crit damage plus 30%, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, status damage reduction plus 4.8%, damage against great ones plus 4.8%, and weapon damage plus 1.2%. For my mask mod, I've chose to go with Targeted Strike with the violent suffix. When hitting marked enemies, crit rate plus 10% and crit damage plus 25%, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, damage against elite enemies plus 7.5%, damage against great ones plus 2.4%, and weapon damage plus 2.4%. For my chest piece, I decided to go with the blue mod crit damage enhancement. Crit rate plus 2% and crit damage plus 12%, with the aptitude effects of weapon damage plus 3.6% and damage against great ones plus 3.6%. On the other hand, if you do have a good legendary chest piece mod, for example, like an Ardent Shield with a violent suffix, but you've got tier 5 in crit damage, 2 decent tiers in 2 different types of enemies, and maybe some weapon damage, I'd say use that over using this blue mod. For my legs mod, I am running Melee Momentum. Melee damage plus 20% after a melee kill. Recover 30% of max stamina, with the aptitude effects of melee damage plus 8%, damage against normal enemies plus 6%, damage against elite enemies plus 3%, and weapon damage reduction plus 3%. Now, when crafting these mods, it doesn't give you the option of violent, talents, and precision. It says it's random, but you can drop melee damage and you can also drop crit rate. They're the ones you want to aim for, melee damage and crit rate with 2 types of enemy. For my gloves mod, I am running Crit Amplifier with the violent suffix, crit rate plus 10% and crit damage plus 15%, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, damage against great ones plus 4.8%, damage against normal enemies plus 10%, and weapon damage plus 2.4%. And last but not least, the shoes mod. I'm running Coveted Advance with violent suffix. Taking no damage within 4 seconds grants plus 20% melee weapon and status damage for 30 seconds. The effect resets when the duration ends, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, max HP plus 3.6%, head damage reduction plus 4.8%, and damage against elite enemies of 4.5%. I'd like to say a massive thank you to all my subscribers and viewers. If you enjoyed the content and aren't yet subscribed, please consider doing so as to not miss any of my new build guides, including fresh additions to the Blue Grade series. On that note, Mares, stay safe and strike with the utmost precision.